All right, let's talk about one of the biggest gambles in modern tech history, Windows 10 Mobile. This was Microsoft's final, all-in attempt to conquer the smartphone world. It was a huge, ambitious idea that promised to change, well, everything. But it ended up as this fascinating footnote, and we're going to break down exactly what went wrong. You know, in a world that's just completely dominated by iOS and Android, it's kind of easy to forget that there was a third major player really fighting for a spot in our pockets. Microsoft threw billions of dollars at this vision for mobile that was honestly incredibly futuristic and ambitious, but also, as we'll see, deeply flawed. Let's get into it. Okay, so picture this. It's the early 2010s. Microsoft is still the king of the PC, no question. But on mobile, they are losing, and losing badly. So their answer wasn't just to make a slightly better phone. No, their plan was way more radical. It was to completely rethink what an operating system even is. So what was the big idea? Well, it was revolutionary for the time. Instead of having one OS for your PC, another for your phone, and another for your tablet, Microsoft's CEO Satya Nadella basically said, let's merge them all. The goal was one single, unified Windows that would just work no matter what size screen you were looking at. And this right here, this was the magic sauce that was supposed to make it all happen. The Universal Windows Platform, or UWP. Now, the promise here, especially to developers, was huge. Imagine you're a coder. You write your app one time and it runs everywhere. On a PC, a phone, a tablet, even an Xbox. This was Microsoft's big play to solve that nagging app gap that had always held Windows Phone back. And look, this wasn't just some vague idea they were throwing around. They had a clear three-step plan. First, get everything running on the same core Windows NT kernel. Second, turn on those universal apps with UWP. And third, bring it all together to create one seamless user experience. On paper, it was elegant. It was a really smart plan. So, with this grand strategy in place, Microsoft knew they needed a killer feature. You know, that one thing that would make people go, whoa, I need that. Something that Apple and Google just weren't offering, and what they came up with was honestly straight out of a sci-fi movie. A feature so incredibly ambitious that it was designed to completely erase the line between the phone in your pocket and the computer on your desk. It was called Continuum, and the concept was simple but absolutely mind-blowing. You could be working on an email on your phone, right? You walk up to your desk, plug the phone into a monitor, and boom! Your apps, your start menu, everything scales up into a full-blown desktop experience. You could use a real mouse and keyboard. It was your phone, but it was also your PC. And really, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? A PC in your pocket. That was the pitch. It wasn't just a phone anymore. Microsoft was selling this incredible idea that one single device could be the only computer you'd ever need to own. I mean, the ambition there was just completely off the charts. But as we all know, having a great vision is one thing. Actually pulling it off is something else entirely. And despite the futuristic promise of Continuum, the actual launch of Windows 10 Mobile, well, this is where the cracks really start to show. It was a mess of delays, confusion, and, yeah, broken promises. So let's just look at the timeline here. The first brand new phones, the Lumia 950 and 950 XL, they shipped in November 2015. Great. But Microsoft had this huge, loyal base of users on older Windows Phone 8.1 devices, and they were promised an upgrade by December. Well, December came and went, nothing. The upgrade didn't actually start rolling out until March of the next year. That's months of waiting and frustration. And when that upgrade finally did arrive, it came with this massive catch. See, Microsoft had originally led people to believe that pretty much all Lumia phones running 8.1 would get the new OS. But the reality? Not even close. As you can see, they completely dropped support for tons of popular phones, especially the ones with 512 megs of RAM. Even fan favorites like the Lumia 1020 with its legendary camera were left out in the cold. For so many loyal users, this felt like a total betrayal. Okay, so a messy launch is bad, but you can recover from it. The real problem, the one that had been haunting Windows Phone for years, was about to become the platform's fatal flaw, the app gap. And Microsoft had one last, desperate ace up its sleeve to try and fix it. This was Microsoft's secret weapon, their Hail Mary pass. It was called Project Astoria. The idea was brilliant, really. They would build this compatibility layer that would let Android apps run on Windows phones with just a few tiny changes. If it worked, the Windows Store could be flooded with hundreds of thousands of Android apps almost overnight. It would have solved the app gap in one fell swoop. but it never saw the light of day. In February 2016, after months of silence and delays, Microsoft just killed it. They shelved Project Astoria. The official reason was something about it being confusing for developers. Maybe they were worried about a flood of low-quality apps, who knows. But whatever the reason, the decision was just devastating. The bridge to the world's biggest app ecosystem was burned. And the result was this brutal, unstoppable downward spiral. With no apps, you get no users. And with no users, developers have zero reason to build apps for your platform. Just look at these numbers. They tell the whole story. The market share just completely collapses from an already tiny slice of the pie in 2016 to basically a rounding error by 2019. And it gets even worse. By November 2021, the global market share for Windows 10 Mobile was a staggering 0.01%. The dream wasn't just dead, it was buried. So with no users, no developers, and a market share that had vanished into thin air, well, the writing was on the wall. Microsoft finally had to face reality, and the company began the slow, pretty painful process of officially shutting down its mobile ambitions for good. And if you ever wonder why big companies kill ambitious projects, just follow the money. Look at this. In a single year between 2015 and 2016, Microsoft's phone revenue dropped by more than half. That's a loss of over $4 billion. I mean, no company, no matter how big, can just keep burning cash like that. The finances sealed its fate. The official end came in stages. First, in October 2017, a top Microsoft exec came out and said what everyone already knew. No new features, no new hardware. It's over. Then they set an end-of-life date for December 2019. And finally, on January 14, 2020, the very last security update went out. And that was it, the last breath of Windows 10 Mobile. So what do you do after a failure that massive? Well, Microsoft pivoted, and they pivoted hard. They laid off thousands of people from the mobile division, sold off what was left of Nokia, and totally flipped their strategy. It became, if you can't beat them, join them. They started putting their best software, like Microsoft Office, on iOS and Android. And eventually, in the ultimate twist, they released their own phone, the Surface Duo, running Google's Android, a complete 180. And all of this leaves us with one final, really big question. The story of Windows 10 Mobile is this incredible cautionary tale about huge ideas and flawed execution. It proves that even a tech giant with nearly unlimited resources couldn't break the stranglehold of iOS and Android. So you have to wonder, was that the last real fight for a third option? Or in this world of two giants, could another challenger ever really succeed again?